Well, hello Internet, and welcome to my new tutorial on how to make Android apps. I'm going to specifically be using Android Studio, but if you use Eclipse, feel free to use it. I'll make sure that everything still makes sense. If you don't know how to install Android Studio, I have a link in the description underneath the video. I also have another link under there for Android beginners, if at any point in time any of this confuses you. And I have a lot to do, so let's get into it. Alright, so here is Android Studio starting up, and there it is. So the very first thing we're going to do is just go into New Project, and I'll explain every single thing here. First, you're going to type in your application name. I'm just going to call this Hello Again, and of course I have all the code also in the description under the video. And this is very simple, it's just going to be your application name. Then down here you're going to see module name. Just leave that set for app, and basically a module is just going to contain everything you need for your application to be able to run. Then you're going to have package name, and you're going to have to type in something unique here. I have New Think Tank, type in something else, and the whole purpose of the package name is to make sure that everything you do is unique. This is the location for all of your files, which we set up previously in the tutorial on how to install all this stuff. Right here we're just going to leave the minimum at this point in time set for 8, and this is just the minimum version of Android on a device that's going to be able to run your application, and we're going to set our maximum at 19. Now there's going to be a new version of Android coming out very soon. Don't worry, I'll automatically switch, but you normally don't have to worry about it because Android doesn't change that dramatically from version to version, and most of the time they're backwards compatible changes, so not a big deal. Down here you'll see language level. This is something you don't really need to worry about, but if you want to know what it is, basically in Java 6 the override annotation no longer applies to interface methods, so this turns that capability back on. Like I said, if that's confusing, don't worry about it. You don't need to know any more than that. Then we come down to theme. Now basically styles or themes are going to specify the look of your app. Android's going to provide a whole bunch of pre-made themes for you to be able to use, but right here I basically just have a couple. So I'm just going to keep this very simple and just have hollow light and dark action bar. Now I don't want to click on this because I don't really feel like uploading a icon, but if I did want to upload an icon inside of this wizard, I would put a check there. If you want Android Studio to automatically create an activity for you, you're going to put a check mark there. If you want to actually define what is called an Android library, you'd put a check right here, and basically what that is, an Android library, is it's going to contain source code and other random resources that you'll be able to share with other Android projects. We're not going to do that now. Then you have support mode, and you can see right here we could have a grid layout automatically set up for us. We could set up fragments, navigation drawer, or action bar just by clicking inside of here, but we're going to pass on that as well. So let's come down here and let's click on next. Whenever we click on next, we're going to have a whole bunch of different types of activities that we can have set up by Android Studio. I'm going to stick with blank activity, but by the end of this tutorial I'm going to take you through every single one of those. Come down here again and click on next. And then basically everything you really kind of need to worry about is right here. Now we're going to have a main activity, which is going to be your Java class file, which is going to be all the code behind your application. And then we're going to have an XML file called activity main, which is going to basically allow you to design your layout for your application. But don't worry about it if you're not an XML guru, you don't need to be. And that is it. I'm just going to leave all those at default and click on finish. And it's going to go and start building that for me. While we're waiting for that, I'm going to take you through the folder structure of a Android Studio project. Alright, so here we are. Basically, the idea folder is just going to contain project-specific data that is stored here by Android Studio. Don't worry about it. You don't need to know anything else about it at this point in time. Then we're going to have the app folder, which is basically your project module. This is your application. And then you're going to have a Gradle file. I went over Gradle a little bit in my Android's tutorial on how to install Android Studio. But basically, it is going to contain all the Gradle-specific build files. We'll get more into that later. Let's dive into the app folder, however. And whenever we jump into the app folder, we're going to have the build folder, which is going to contain all your compiled classes, auto-generated files, and other resources. You're also going to have a libs folder, which is going to contain all the libraries you import in your project. And if any of this is confusing, don't worry about it. I'm going to cover it over and over and over again. You're going to get it. And then let's dive into our source folder, which is going to have the main application code. Now inside the source folder, there's a couple folders we're going to focus in on here. First, I'm going to focus on main. Inside of main, you're going to have a package name, which is going to make your application unique. And then you're going to have main activity.java, which is going to be all the code for your application. Also in the source folder and in the main folder, you're going to have a resources folder. And let's go through the specific resources. First, you're going to have a whole bunch of drawable folders, and they're basically just going to contain images that are going to be stored at different resolutions so your app looks nice on every screen that it opens on. Then you're going to have your layout folder, which is you're basically going to define the layout of your application in XML, like I said before, and it's going to be stored there, and later on you are also going to be storing many other different layouts for your application as they get more complicated. Then inside of your menu folder, you're going to have a file called main.xml where you're going to be able to define what is in the menu for your application. You're going to have values down here, which is going to store standards for your application like text, colors, dimension, styles, and a whole bunch of other different things. And then finally, you're going to have an Android manifest, which is basically going to provide information about your application so that the Android device is going to be able to run it. Alright, so that's all we need to do right now. Let's jump over. Our project should be ready to go. Alright, so we got our tip of the day. Let's close that. And the first file, well, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to jump up here and enlarge the text. There you can see all the text is real big now, so let's go move some stuff around here. Basically, you're going to have your application be built right here. You can see right now it is just a simple hello world. This is a text view. We're going to be talking about those later on. Let's just shrink this down. And here's all the folders that I was talking about before. See, there's idea, there's app, there's build, there's all the different folders. And you can see right there's a whole bunch of drawable folders. Okay, we'll get into it. Don't worry about it. It's just going to take a little bit of time. All right, so like I said, whenever you first open this up, activity main is going to be showing on your screen, and you're going to see relative layout. You may ask yourself, what is relative layout? Well, I'm going to quickly explain all the different layouts available. Okay, so you basically have linear layouts, and they can either be vertical or horizontal.